Hello everyone and welcome back to DMG. I've got a bit of a weird little thing for you today. Nowadays in the mid-2020s, convertible 2-in-1 laptops are nothing special. They are pretty common to see and they're not hard to get. But it wasn't always that way. Even before the whole tablets are the future craze in the 2010s-ish, 2-in-1 laptops and tablets started to become more of a thing. And what I have for you today is far from the earliest example, but it's one of the most interesting earlier examples. This is the Dell Latitude XT2, a convertible 2-in-1 tablet from around 2008. As always with laptops, we're just going to go around the side, but first, while we're on the side, look how thin this is. This is a pretty nice, thin, light, portable laptop. Or tablet, rather. On the right side, you've got wireless on-off switch, Wi-Fi catcher, eSATA plus USB 2, SD, express card slot, microphone and headphone, Kensington lock. On the back, charger, VGA, RJ45, so gigabit Ethernet, weird USB port with power on top, USB 2, a holder for the tablet pin, the cooling fan, USB 2, Firewire 400, and the one speaker. The back looks a little different than any other Latitude because this is the only old Latitude to use a flat cell battery instead of a pack of long round cells. So here it is. This is more like what a modern laptop battery looks like, and you see it's divided into two sections, and the hard drive, a 1.8-inch drive, actually goes like in the middle of the battery, which is neat. And on the back we've got a service panel and a dot connector. So the I/O is pretty good for a thin little laptop, but what if you want more? Well, luckily Dell has a solution for that. This isn't quite a dock because it's designed to be mobile. It really easily attaches to the back of the laptop and just holds on. This is the media slice, which adds a ton more ports. It adds USB 2, another USB 2, an optical drive, RJ45, well, it covers some ports, so it adds them back. Gigabit Ethernet, USB 2, more USB 2, serial, DVI, VGA, more audio, another charger port, and more Firewire. So, well, it gives you a lot more expansion options, and if you ever want to take it off, it's just a little lever, and immediately it's separated again. It's not very heavy, but it does make the laptop maybe 40% thicker, and there's no like speed deficit to using its USB ports. They're not run through a single USB hub. That's not what this is. They all run directly to the chipset, including the VGA and the DVI. Every port on here is straight to the laptop I/O, except for the serial port, which is run through a USB 1.1 to serial converter chip from Texas Instruments. But that aside, let's check out the rest of this laptop. Now, of course, its party trick is that you can swing the screen around, fold it flat, and boom, you've got a tablet. I actually really like this for reading and annotating with my digital textbooks. I'm not a huge fan of digital textbooks, but I am a big fan of not paying a shit ton of money and getting the same book for cheaper. So that said, this is actually fantastic for digital textbooks because, well, it's a tablet. Let's go ahead and fire it up and, well, I'll go ahead and demonstrate. This particular model has a Core 2 Duo SU9600 processor, which is the same as the 12-inch Latitude E4200. It's a dual-core 1.6 gigahertz processor. It's extremely efficient. It's the pin-RIN architecture, only uses about 10 watts. And this laptop has one memory slot plus 1 GB of memory soldered to the board. This laptop has soldered memory plus a DDR3 slot. It's all nice and compact, and here you've got your wireless LAN card and your wireless wide area network, so 3G modem. Here's your processor with its tiny, adorable little heatsink, and this machine is very quiet. But here, of course, is the 4 GB RAM stick that I've installed. I'll go ahead and flip it around into laptop mode, since that seems to be the best way to demonstrate it for now. Of course, the thing that you want to see is the touchscreen. So I'll demonstrate that in a second after I just revisit some of the hardware aspects really quickly. Of course, here is our Core 2 Duo U9600 as mentioned, and we have 5 GB of memory from the combination of 4 GB installed in the slot and 1 soldered to the board. The soldered stick is a speed of 1333 megahertz, so whatever stick you install should be 1333 megahertz or above, so you get a faster speed. And Wi-Fi, it didn't come with the typical Centrino platform card, instead using a Dell Wireless 1397 Wi-Fi card. So of course, you want to see the touch screen. So here we go. It is a one-point touch display, and you can use your finger on it, but it doesn't quite work well. It works fine for moving windows and that sort of thing, but if you want to really use it, you will want to make use of the pin, which is a nice little piece of hardware. Let me lower the... No! That's the lowest the brightness gets. So that's my next point. This screen can get incredibly bright to the point where it looks like a mini sun on the camera here. But the pin is pretty responsive. It tracks well. And, well, it's a capacitive touch display when it comes to using with your fingers, but there is a special digitizer that is used for the pin. So because it's not resistive touch, you can't just use anything. So like, for example, if I flip the pin over or use a screwdriver, that's not going to work. This is very early in the capacitive touch on laptops era, so it's not perfect. You have 2 buttons on the pin. One of them is a right-click menu, and that is the first button here, and the second button is a left-click, and that makes sense. You'd probably want to use the right-click more, because you can just tap to use the left-click. So that's about all I need to say about the actual pin/tablet part. The pins aren't expensive. Like if you lose one or if you need to buy one because your laptop doesn't come with one, they're like $6 on eBay, and they come with tip replacements. So there's no problem in getting those. So even though it's a nice tablet, it's also still a fantastic laptop. You've got a nice keyboard. It's not exactly the same as the Latitude E4300, which is the 13-inch Latitude, but it's relatively close in feel. You get 2 buttons above and below the trackpad, which is reasonably sized. You also get a point stick in the middle of the keyboard if you prefer to use that input method. But really quickly, let's do a typing test so you can hear this keyboard. Not very loud. It's a relatively quiet little keyboard, and the feel is fantastic. There are some things that I should talk about, but I can't really do that in too much detail since they don't quite work correctly on Windows 10. The drivers don't quite install. You have a suite of buttons on the front of the tablet. One of them does Control-Alt-Delete, which is an odd function to have a button permanently baked for. One of them rotates the display, or would, if the driver was installed, and one of them presumably opens a settings menu. You also have buttons for scrolling at the bottom of the tablet. So there's a little scroll wheel down here that lets you scroll through page content when using the tablet mode. And that is an absolutely fantastic little touch. I mentioned earlier that this laptop has one speaker, and unfortunately, it's not a very good speaker. It's not horrible, but, you know, it's mono. Volume is not really a problem. It's decently loud. Sound quality is good, but only one speaker is definitely a downside of this machine. I would have loved to have two speakers up here, even if they sounded a little worse than this one, or at least just put another speaker on this side, because there's space right there. However, that's really the only negative here. It's a little tablet that has some great expandability options, such as an express card slot and, oh, the whole slice that adds double the laptop's worth of I/O. I've tested the graphics of these Core 2 Duo chips in the past. I don't think I have to demonstrate that again. It just uses the standard Intel GMA chipset of the Penryn series architecture. One more thing I will mention is you can actually see the digitizer under the screen. It's not distracting, and it doesn't look bad. It's more of just an interesting detail. If you look at the screen at the correct angle, you can actually see the little squares that the digitizer forms. And I find that pretty fascinating because, again, this was early in the era of capacitive touch instead of resistive touch. So it's pretty neat to note that detail of just being able to see the digitizer. But with that, that's where we're going to wrap up for today. So thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I have tons of other laptop content on the channel if you're interested. But that's it for this one. So thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time.